As we sit here on February 27th, 2023, on Monday, it is exactly 1 week from Erev Purim. Um, and it's really interesting how seriously a person can take Purim if they look at the underlying um, sort of scenario and context of the story. So the one thing that sort of jumps out or does not jump out in the story of Purim is that God is not mentioned once. So that's a pretty well known um, aspect of the Megillah, that that God is absent, and that there's only sort of one particularly ritualistic thing that's done that would point to God's existence in the Megillah, and that's when um, Esther and Mordecai and the rest of the Jewish people fast for 3 days before Esther goes to ask the king to intercede. Other than that, there's no mention of God explicitly, as we are so accustomed to in most of the rest of Jewish writings and teachings. So this teaching starts in a place that isn't necessarily here on the page. The Talmud recounts that there's this really crazy story about when the Jews were offered the Torah. They were offered the Torah and offered what's called the oral Torah at the same time, which means basically the Mishnah, the way that a Jew lives their lives, as opposed to what's actually literally written down in the text of the scroll, and that the oral Torah and the literal text of the Torah had to be accepted at the same time. And so the rabbis tell a story in the Talmud, which is very well known, which is that in order to get the Jews to accept this, that God flipped Mount Sinai on its head, essentially. You heard this one before? Held it over the people as hostage, and they accepted it. Because God said, you either accept it or it's your death. So that sounds like extortion. And the rabbis say, like, this could be a comment against the Torah. How could this be like a foundational teaching that we have? They point to Esther 9:27, which we'll read next Monday and Tuesday morning, where it says they upheld what they already accepted, which the rabbis interpret to mean that they had already upheld this idea that they were going to commit to the oral Torah and the written Torah, and in their celebration, because already in chapter 9 they're celebrating, in their celebration they upheld what they had already accepted. They had the choice, in other words, implicitly, to reject what they had already accepted, because that accepting of the oral Torah and the written Torah was extortion. So they had a choice, and they re-accepted it. So it says in Esther 9:27, the Jews fulfilled and accepted upon themselves to observe these 2 days of Purim. They have this, they draw this line between this 2 days of Purim and the oral and the written Torah. And it goes on to talk about two types of miracles. But before that, I want to share what I was playing when people started to walk in is the famous tune of Entering Adar, which a lot of people know, which is a Hasidic nigun that comes from the Baba Ver Hasidim, I think. There's probably no Baba Ver Hasidim watching me right now, so I'm probably good. But anyway, it goes, and you probably know, it goes, Misha, 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 Nichnas Adar. Misha, 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 Nichnas Adar. Misha, Nichnas Adar, Marbim Besimcha. It seems like it's like a frail tune, but really, this is where the Hasidim have such brilliance, and these are Hasidic teachings that we're looking at tonight. It comes from another melody. It comes from this other melody that goes like this. La 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 which comes from a slower melody. The Baba for wedding nigun. The nigun used either for walking down the aisle or for the bedekin. So the Hasidim connect the portion in the Torah, or I should say the portion in the Talmud where the Jews accept with the mountain over their heads, to the reacceptance of the oral Torah and the written Torah on Purim of their own volition in this beautiful way. And this made me think of renewing their vows. So 1,000 years or 2,000 years, or however many years it was, after they had accepted the oral and the written Torah, and if you think that they accepted it under duress, which even the rabbis admit that it was under duress, who would accept being a Jew not under duress? It's so hard. And they sort of recognize this in the Talmud, that there's 613 mitzvot, and there's like all these rules for living every day, and like, of course they had to accept it under duress. Like, what else, when you teach somebody to be a Jew or to be a religious person of any kind, really, you teach them as a young child, and you raise them. To accept it as a young child is so much easier to accept it than when you're an adult, if you were a convert. And of course, a child doesn't have a choice. And so, of course, the Jews didn't have a choice either, right? That God didn't really give them a choice. But here on Purim, they renew their vows. They renew their vows in chapter 9. And here's where we get to this beautiful part about the types of miracles, the revealed and the hidden. So it says a revealed miracle is like the splitting of the Red Sea and the Exodus, where it is clear to all that nature is transformed. And then there are hidden miracles. A hidden miracle is the sort that took place for Mordecai and Esther, in which the forces of nature went on undisturbed. The miraculous took place within the realm of nature. Our teacher, the holy lamp Rav Dov Ber, this is the Hasidim talking, taught that she was named Esther because of Hester, hiddenness, the hiding of the miracle within nature. Rashi on the passage in Shabbat says that Israel reaccepted the Torah due to loving the miracle. So again, this image of renewing vows due to loving the miracle. But why should this miracle of Mordechai and Esther have been more beloved than Yam Suf, than the Sea of Reeds, than the revealed miracle? I think I might have repeated text here. They call it ditography. Try to get rid of this, but it wouldn't go away. Okay. So, hidden miracles, they continue. There is no miracle as great as a miracle as when God works through nature, with God's kingship hidden and yet does wonders. That was what happened at the time of Mordecai and Esther, and it was so wondrous that it caused Israel to accept God's Torah. And so we have more here God has revealed. But I want to stay for a second on hidden miracles, because the Megillah is a hidden miracle, because we're sitting in, for instance, Megillah Madness, and all of this craziness is going on, and everyone's playing instruments and singing, and people are drinking and having a great time and forgetting the difference between Haman and Mordecai and whatever. And the truth is that there's serious religious behavior going on in the text. And there's a renewal of vows. And there's a willingness to go and find God when God is not obviously there, which is really probably the most applicable teaching we could have for our time. Because our time, at least in my perception, is obviously a time when God is not revealed, when God is certainly hidden, with all the suffering in the world and all of the fighting and all of the war. So to be able to find God when God is hidden, and again, this is a very well-known philosophical concept, especially in Judaism. Hester Panim is something that Jewish philosophers have used since the Holocaust to explain how the Holocaust could even happen. So to be able to find God's hiddenness, or be able to find God in God's hiddenness, is the first teaching here of the Megillah. To be able to read the Megillah scroll and find God in the hiddenness of the Megillah, in the small acts where Esther is willing to give her life, the fasting occurs, Mordecai is willing to risk his life by not bowing down. They're like nods to Jewish behavior. They're nods to the Ten Commandments, but they're not explicit about God being involved. So let's take a few minutes here and use this idea of the hidden miracles that exist in the world, that exist in the everyday, that we don't often give ourselves time to recognize. Just breathing in and out, allowing ourselves a moment to find something we cannot find while we're on tasks and errands. Just allow this to be your time. Slowly turn off the need for accomplishment. Turn on your spiritual radar that helps you locate the meaning, the presence of the divine. Well, one more minute here, just enjoying the softness of breathing, nothing to accomplish. embrace the stillness. Wow, I'm allergic to this song. So this last part here, God is revealed. This is my favorite part. There's a thing in yeshiva learning when somebody says something or comes up with something, like a connection or a new idea that's impressive or interesting or compelling or thought-provoking. It's called a chiddush, which means something new, like a new idea, a new thought, a new part of the equation, you might think if you're a math person. Um, or people just use a very, you know, animalistic sound, like psh, okay? Like you could do that in shul if you hear something nice, you don't want to clap. Psh, or Devar Torah you really like. So they say here, look at this in a more inward way, particularly the issue of Israel accepting the Torah in love during the time of Mordechai and Esther. Here's the Chiddush. First, we should note that the term Megillah, used especially for the scroll of Esther, when God's kingship was hidden within nature, derives from the word megaleh, to reveal. Since God was revealed to be present in the natural world and still to defeat evil. This, the idea of God defeating evil in nature, is connected to the word Megillah, revealed, that God's actions and kingship within nature, which were hidden, are revealed. Hence the name Megillah, the revealing of that which is hidden. So it's sort of the other side of the mirror from looking for God in the Megillah, that the Megillah is actually all about revelation in terms of revealing God's existence in the world through God's ability to combat evil without even having to show up. Such is God's power. And this is in stark contrast to what we read just a few weeks ago in Shemot, which is, why does God harden Pharaoh's heart in Shemot, in the book of Shemot? Lema'an shiti ototai ele bekirbo, that I may display my great works among them, right? That I may be known among the nations as a fearsome, awesome, awful, however you want to put it, God. This is a complete sort of tipping. This is a complete, I was going to say, it's like hafuch, right? It's like it turns over this narrative. It turns over like the mountain into something that, at least from where I'm looking at it, is much more deeply spiritual in its essence. That God does not need to show God's miracles to the Egyptians and the other peoples, does not need to harden Pharaoh's heart in order to be God, the fearsome, awful, awesome, powerful God of Shemot, but can function without even being obviously present. That God functions through the intercession of human beings. And that's where morning brachot and our sense of how God exists for us today in the 21st century, that's how we perceive it. Because we don't see God doing great miracles and blowing things up. We have to look to see how God is megaleh, or legalot, to reveal something, that God reveals God's self through nature. Whether it's the nature of human beings or it's literally nature, being inspired by something in nature. But the idea here is that God is providing an example to us through the Megillah, through something that for most people is obvious what it is. It's Jewish Halloween. Everybody knows that. Except it's really supposed to be Jewish Hanukkah, because this is when you give presents. But anyway, it's really like a very spiritual and important preparation for Pesach. Because Pesach is when we'll see all of the great revelation, but leading up to Pesach, Purim is when we know you have to start cleaning out your drawers of the bread. That's how you know the Pesach is coming, because Purim is over. Because Purim is the stepping stone to know that you have to start looking deeper. The Megillah forces us to do that. And Esther's name in and of itself is a reminder of God's hiddenness, and that we have to search and search, as Heschel wrote famously, God in search of man, and also for us, man in search of God. So we'll do a chant, um, a Kol Ha'olam Kulo, which for me is all about searching for meaning and searching for God's presence in our everyday lives, in the Megillah, when we have religious experiences that are continue to affect us in the same way every single year, that we think we know exactly what this holiday is, we know exactly what this thing is about, and then to be able to ask ourselves, maybe we don't know what this is about. Maybe it's not about what I think it's about, which is true for so many relationships. You think a relationship is one thing, it's something else, whether it's your child, your parents, your sister, your brother, right? I think Nancy might be nodding behind her mask. Relationships are always not exactly what they seem on the surface, so the Megillah is the same way. March. I think we planned them, check the calendar. We may have a change between the 25th date and the 31st date, or the 24th and 31st. We'll see. I may be out of town. Check the calendar. But enjoy Purim. Enjoy all the aspects of Purim, and feel free to take the source sheet as a way to enter the holiday with a little bit more intentionality, a little different perspective. And next month we'll be on to the pre-Omer conversation. Counting of the Omer will start with Passover stuff. We'll be getting ready for the Omer. Favorite time of the week. Thanks, everybody.